the trees regarding our gender identity and sexuality. When there's no place like home, empty air, an empty establishment. Friends with Dorothy, fighting for your civil rights. Out on the cruel streets tonight.
Okay. Sorry about that. Were you in any way influenced or conscious of the Dublin tradition of theatre? Because we have a massive tradition of theatre in Dublin in a way that very few places around the world actually do.
Yes, yeah, like I remember I came from Waterford myself, and when I was younger I would have done like a lot of musicals. That was what, I feel like kids flock towards musicals when they're so young, or like not all of them, but
Girls maybe.
well, we had a mix actually, which was lovely, but I think a lot of people flocked towards musicals, including myself, and then got into musicals. And then when I got into the Lear here in Dublin, I remember not really knowing what Antigone was, and I was mispronouncing it for ages, or the classics, or I'd never even stepped foot in the Abbey Theatre before. So it was all really, really new, but really exciting because I'd never seen any of it before.
Colette, you're going to have the full-blown version of When Rachel Met Fiona in the new theatre next week. It started out in London, and I think it started out perhaps as a reading, and then it might have started out as a one-act play. Has it changed greatly since you originally conceived it?
Kind of yes and no. I know that sounds odd because, say, the first scenes I wrote with the play, which are now scenes 3 and 4, I've probably seen them performed with maybe 5, 6 different Rachel and Fiona combinations. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, obviously some of the actors that are better than others, but generally, no, it's like I always look at actors and I always think, I don't have a fixed idea in my head. Like I have an idea of the characters, but not necessarily the actors that are going to embody those characters. So I always would be thinking, what kind of a Rachel would they make? What kind of a Fiona would they make? And it kind of changes, but it very much stays the same. It's hard to explain really, but I've been seeing a full production is obviously really much more exciting than seeing like a scratch night or seeing a reading, and I think also. Having someone like Iseult direct the play is wonderful because she's such a brilliant director and she brings out so much of the nuances in the writing that it's great. Yeah, it's great. You kind of feel that your play is getting the best possible production, the best possible attention. I mean, Anthony's put a great team and Iseult together. So yeah, I kind of feel that the play is really getting and with Éilish and Emma, are just wonderful. I kind of feel, that really the play is getting the best kind of attention and the best kind of window to the world that it could have. So that's really exciting for me. Yeah, it's really exciting.
Just to look, you've got 2 very different voices, which reflects modern Ireland in that sense of the word. Had you written it maybe 30 years ago, they almost certainly would have been 2 women with Irish voices. Does that change the dynamic?
Kind of yes and no. Because Iseult and I spoke about this because Emma also does a brilliant Irish accent. Now, Iseult said that to me, and to be honest with you, I was thinking, yeah, right. And when I heard Emma's Irish accent, I thought, of course Iseult is right. Yeah, it's really good. But I just liked the Australian accent. I think it fits the character. There's a couple of reasons why I like it. One is, when people see 2 women acting, even though they can be totally different, they can be totally different heights, they can be totally different hair colours, they get them mixed up. It's just really annoying. So I think that helps in terms of the audience differentiating the characters. But I think also it fits into the character of Rachel, the Australian personality, because she's kind of quite direct, whereas Fiona is more, indirect, say, which is more an Irish quality, and also the character travels a lot. So the fact that Rachel's character kind of very much fits Emma's background in as much as she had Irish parents. She decided to come to college here in Dublin, so it just totally dovetailed. So in a way, for me, it doesn't really change the play. It just makes it better, if that makes sense.
Emma, what voice do you use in the play?
I'm Australian.
You do?
Yeah, I do.
Excuse me, I got to ask you, how do people respond to that? Because when I came back here from Australia, even though I use it's only language I use rather than voice, people say, you're Australian. And it was, you'd see them going back slightly. Might be easier if you're a female, but how did they take to you?
I guess they're quite curious as to why. I don't know if you but they asked me, why would you leave Australia? What the weather? And I'm thinking, yeah. Well, I mean, because I've got the pale Irish skin anyway, so I can't stand the heat. So I think moving here was a perfect solution for that. But I think that it's just more just curious, why Ireland? It's so far away. I think that's probably why. It's just because it's such a far place to travel from. That people are curious as to why did you choose to come here.
Yeah. Strictly speaking, you didn't leave Australia, you left Melbourne.
I left Melbourne. I did, yes. Which is one of the lowest points. Don't count Tasmania. But yeah, and but it's never really met with you're from Australia? It's kind of like, you're from Australia? Oh. And then were you on Neighbours?
Yeah.
Is the question I think I'm asked a lot. Or do you know anyone from Neighbours? Or Home and Away? Home and Away is the big one. Unfortunately, I don't. But, it's been rather, it's been embraced quite warmly.
Did that restrict you getting parts, or did it open it up for you? Because we either are very deferential to, shall we say, newcomers, or we're all embracing.
Yeah. It hasn't. There have been some instances, but I think, like you were saying, I think nowadays it's changing more rapidly as we're seeing the more influx of, international actors or students or just anyone really coming to Ireland and going abroad anywhere else really. And, I think an actor's job is to transform. So I don't think it really matters what kind of accent they have or where they're from, what their background is. If they are someone who can embody the character in a way that the director sees that they're embodying it, then it shouldn't matter what original accent they have. If they can convincingly become the character and do their accent or have their mannerisms, then that's their job. Yeah. That's all they need to do. So
that's any consolation. I do know people from Home and Away, and most of them really weren't great actors, but that's a separate matter. Éilish, when they came to you with this piece, and they said, this is about two LGBTQ plus women, did you think to yourself, I don't know if I want to do that, or I really want to do that? What was your initial response?
I think my initial response was just that it was a love story, and it was a story about two people living together, and that was what drew me to it, was the dialogue and how they interact with each other, and how the relationship changes because it's a long-term relationship. And I think just in looking at it, I think it just, the writing and everything was just so gorgeous and so nuanced and specific and funny that's the only, I suppose that was, for me anyway, that was the only thing I saw really in it, because I feel like mostly it's just, it's a love story and it's a story of two people.
Colette, you're a different generation to the two performers. most of the women I speak to say Dublin, when I was growing up, and particularly in the 70s, 80s, and even to a lesser degree the 90s, there weren't a lot of places for LGBTQ plus women to go and meet and socialise and all of that. What's your experience, and is that reflected in this work?
Well, yeah, because the characters meet, this is spoiler here, they met in a book group, and so yeah, I think that I think that's the case. I mean, obviously, bigger LGBT communities in all over the world. I mean, I lived in San Francisco for a while.
Sure. Yeah.
And there are more places, but there's always much fewer places for women to meet than for men to meet in the in the kind of gay world. So I think women meet in other places. Certainly, like in my day around, I mean, social activism or. Yeah, it's like create your own subculture. Like I'm not a great bar goer out there. So I mean, yeah. So like I remember when I was in San Francisco, I went to some women's bars there just to see them. Like there's never anything like that here. Yeah, or London. But even London, like there was just used to be just two women's bars, and then they I don't even know if they exist anymore.
Yeah.
So I think women in that world have always had their own kind of subculture, their own, I think I think don't get me wrong, I think it's great to have women's clubs. Like when I lived in London, I went to the Fridge, and there's like the biggest women's nightclub in Europe, and you go in there and there's like 2,000 women, and you think, wow, but like, but that's London, so it's, yeah, I mean, I think the play very much reflects, how the two characters met. Like,
so you weren't a habitué of J.J. Smith's or the Hirschfield Centre or somewhere like that?
No, I mean I've been, like I have been to, but like say the Hirschfield Centre, there was just like the Thursday night was women's night, and then there was, there's been various places, around Dublin, which I've gone to, but but there's never that kind of a scene. I think a lot of women, not all women, I hate generalising, because I mean, but a lot of women are not really involved in the scene, sure, that kind of scene, and it's like if people are grand, if they're not, that's okay too,
Yeah. I want to just come back to yourself, Emma, because Colette used a word which is scene, and I would say when I was growing up here and in London, it was a scene. It's much more a community now. How do you find that the LGBT environment compares with Dublin with Melbourne? Because I do have a friend who publishes and edits an LGBTQ plus magazine in Melbourne called Archer.
Yeah? Oh, yeah.
It's a very small world.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I mean, I haven't lived in Melbourne for a couple of years now, but I've always found it to be a very inclusive, free place and community. And I mean, even at La Trobe, like, I mean, I was in the arts section at La Trobe, so, and there was, people from all different sorts of sexual orientations and genders there, and it never felt ever very small or closed off or clandestine. It was always just very open and quite accepted from where I sat anyway. But I haven't been back there in quite a while. But yeah, from my experience, it's always been pretty good.
Éilish, I'm going to come back to yourself. Emma has tested herself on the international stage. Do you have any ambition to do that yourself?
Absolutely. Like, I mean, I'm very lucky that I've picked up quite a bit of work here in Dublin, but yeah, I'll go wherever the road takes me, I suppose. But yeah, no, I'm kind of just enjoying what.
So could this be the Banshees of Inchicore?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't pass it up.
Yeah.
By any means.
Because Colette, there is filmic potential here, isn't there? I mean, you're only talking about the first 7 to 10 years. I mean, relationships. They go on for quite a lot longer than that.
Funny you should say that, Mick, actually, because this is I'm writing a trilogy of plays with these characters.
Okay.
So they're all standalone plays.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first part, which covers the first 7-8 years. Then the second part, which actually we did a rehearsed reading of, Iseult and I, on the summer, last year, actually last July. And that's the next 2 years. And then I'm writing the third part at the moment, yeah. So, like, my ambition would be that, yeah.
Join the dots.
Yeah, and so if there's any TV producers out there, yeah, come chat with us. We're very open to other media.
Yeah. We're going to have to close off because we're running out of time, but tell us the details. When is it starting? Where is it running at? And how long is it running for?
Okay, we're making a Fiona in the new theatre in East Essex Street.
That's Temple Bar, beside the project.
Beside the Project Art Centre. Our opening night is 21st of March until the 1st of April at 7:30 each night from Tuesday to Saturday. And on our last night, April 1st, we also have a matinee at 2:30. Please come along, we'd love to see you there.
I thought you were going to say we were going to have a disco because the last two women's events, they had a disco that I was at and I was the only bloke.
Why not?
Yeah.
It's going to be great.
Who knows?
Anyway, to everybody except Colette, break a leg. I'm looking forward to seeing it, and I hope it's going to be a fabulous experience for everybody who turns up.
Thanks, Nick.
Thank you.
Really nice chatting.
Thank you.
Couldn't see the haunted forest for the trees regarding our gender identity and sexuality. When there's no place like home, empty air, an empty establishment. Friends with Dorothy, fighting for your civil rights.